But being friendly and being a friend, I think, are two different things. I think there are many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox acts friendly toward the lamb. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chop in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that...
And I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro.
I would defend his sincerity and his commitment. And more than that, I would say that just because a person is a Negro or a black American does not mean that he's going to struggle for Negro rights or for jobs for Negroes or anything else. I think that today you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes in a whole host of areas.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These are puppets that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. These are parrots that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. You can't name me a Negro leader who has betrayed Negroes, who has not been endorsed, sanctioned, subsidized, and supported by the white liberals.
Minister Malcolm, I'd like to...
Well, I could cite one example would be Congressman Dawson, for example, in Chicago. In Chicago, a large number of liberals located in the Hyde Park district have consistently fought Dawson and his betrayals of the Negro, and they've also fought some of the people who represent Dawson on the Chicago City Council.
The only Negro I know who is constantly fought, only Negro politician that I know who is constantly fought by white liberals is Adam Clayton Powell. And they call him a racist because he speaks so bluntly on the race issue. But I'm not, as I said, not too familiar with Dawson and his work.
Well, Congressman John Lewis of Georgia is being cast as the undisputed champion of black America, standing in opposition to Donald Trump on behalf of all African Americans. But Lewis does not speak for all African Americans. Mason Weaver used to be a Black Panther, for example. He now says Lewis is a, quote, civil rights turncoat who's collaborating with the Democratic Party to oppress black America. Mr. Weaver joins us now to explain what he means. Mr. Weaver, thanks for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Really, my pleasure.
So what did you mean by that?
Well, you know, in the early 70s and late 60s, we were demonstrating and protesting for the right to compete as adult citizens in America. We were not demonstrating to be taken care of better. Now, Congressman Lewis, he marched across the Pettus Bridge, and they beat him and ran over him. But those were Democrats. It was Democrats. George Wallace stood in the schoolhouse yard. It was Democrats, Bull Connors, that oppressed folks. It was Democrats that voted for the litmus test called the literacy test and the poll tax. He was fighting Democrats. But after they beat his behind on that bridge and ran over him and stomped him on the ground, he got up and turned and joined them. He joined the oppressors and became a stooge for them, where he was now sitting and presiding over the destruction of the black community, the destruction of the black men, destruction of the black woman with drugs and gangs. He has presided over the worst school system in the world, where black people are learning only to be gang prep. So I'm outraged that the demonstration that he had early in his life has turned into a subjugation of his rights and authority as a black leader.
So when you say he's presided over, are you speaking of his congressional district?
Not just his congressional district, but the Congressional Communist Black Caucus that has every district they own and control is a ghetto hellhole. It's a place that no one wants to go to. They're in control of every inner city school system, every inner city police, every inner city jail. They have produced nothing but drugs and misery. Black-owned businesses, black-owned housing has been reduced. They have presided over the destruction of black people. They should be ashamed of themselves, and I don't understand why any black person could be a Democrat.
Huh. Interesting. So you believe that John Lewis, when he gets up and says anything, is already discredited because of what he's failed to do since the civil rights era?
He has done nothing. John Lewis, bless his heart, it took courage to do what he did in early life. But what he has done now, he has turned himself to his enemy, like a little girl being beaten by daddy and joins daddy, like an abused woman beaten by her husband, she joins the husband. He has joined the enemy. He has joined the oppressor. And what he should do, if you're a real man, John Lewis, if you're a real hero, you stand up tomorrow morning and you look at the American people and you apologize. You have led them through decades of hell. You should apologize, say you made a mistake, say that you tried to work with them. But the Democratic Party has always been the party of abuse, always been the party of the Klan, the party that went to war to keep slaves, the party that's always been the destruction of black people. Mr. Lewis, you have presided over the destruction of black America.
Mrs. Clinton became the highest-grossing documentary so far this year. In a just-released clip from Hillary's America, filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza explores a claim often heard from Democrats that the Republican Party is racist.
I want to name some prominent people who have been involved with America's racial history, and I'd like you to tell me simply if they were Republicans or if they were Democrats.
Okay.
Let's begin with the inventor of the positive good school of slavery, the idea that slavery was a good idea, Senator John C. Calhoun.
Democrat.
What about the writer of the Dred Scott decision authorizing slavery and claiming that blacks have no rights, that a white man ought to respect, Roger Taney?
That sounds like a Democrat.
What about the founder of the Ku Klux Klan, Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was also a Confederate general?
Democrat.
Let's now talk about a few more figures in American history who resisted racial oppression. Abraham Lincoln.
Republican.
His Secretary of State, Seward.
Republican.
What about the two leading senators who championed the cause of abolitionism, Thaddeus Stevens and Sumner?
Well, they were Republicans.
What about Frederick Douglass, the runaway slave who became a champion of the abolitionist movement?
Republican.
Well, there you have it. Dinesh D'Souza is a documentary filmmaker and creator of Hillary's America, the smash success thus far. Dinesh, great to see you. So why are you releasing this now?
Because I think most people don't know this stuff, Megan. I think that if you asked most Americans, and most black Americans in particular, which was the party of slavery, segregation, and the Ku Klux Klan, they would say that's probably the Republican Party. But the truth is that that was the Democratic Party. It has a very sordid history. It's never acknowledged it. It's never made any restitution for it. It's never apologized for it. What it really has done is taken the blame for what it did and put it on the South or put it on America. So how did the narrative
start to change in this country such that so many people just say, oh, those Republicans, they're racist?
Well, part of it is that the Democrats have put forward this idea of a big switch. And the idea is that the Democrats became racially enlightened in the 1960s, and all the racists became Republicans. Now, this notion of a big switch is completely fictional. It rests on one guy, Strom Thurmond, who was in fact a Democrat, a racist Democrat. He did become a Republican. But all the other racist Democrats, hundreds of them, we put actually in the film a list of 1,500 racist Democrats on the screen. Less than 1% of them switched to the Republican Party. So the big switch is actually, Megan, a big lie.
Today's Democratic Party believes that government has an important role to play in society. It fights against economic inequality. It advocates policies that battle racial and gender discrimination. But it wasn't always this way. The Democratic Party was once the party of white supremacy, supporting slavery and the Ku Klux Klan. To understand how the party made such a huge shift, you have to go back to its origins in the mid-1820s, when it sprung up supporting the presidential candidacy of a popular former general, Andrew Jackson. Jackson was an outsider, challenging the political establishment and the elites of his day, and his critics disparaged him as a jackass. But Jackson embraced the animal as a symbol of determination, and donkeys started appearing in newspapers to represent him and his followers. In the 1828 presidential election, which saw record-breaking popular participation, Jackson won in a landslide victory. So his supporters argued that they, and not the old elites, represented the popular will of the country, and they started calling themselves the Democratic Party. Jackson's administration immediately began expelling Native Americans living east of the Mississippi River, an issue that defined the new administration. After he signed the Indian Removal Act into law in 1830, 5 large tribes were rounded up and forcibly marched into territories and camps further west. And the Democrats' ambitions didn't stop there. In the 1840s, the party adopted the doctrine of manifest destiny, the idea that Americans, white Americans, were divinely entitled to dominate the whole North American continent. Democratic President James K. Polk put this idea into action, massively expanding U.S. holdings by annexing Texas, acquiring Oregon, and winning much of what's now the southwestern U.S. in a war with Mexico. But soon afterward, national politics devolved into bitter controversy over whether new states entering the Union should be permitted to allow slavery. Democrats said they should, since their support base was strongest in slaveholding states. Yet a new Northern party, the Republicans, sprang up in opposition to expanding slavery any further. When Republican Abraham Lincoln won the presidency, the South seceded and the Civil War began. Once the Civil War was over, the Republican Party was bitterly unpopular among white Southerners who wanted to maintain supremacy over former slaves. So the Democratic Party promised to limit federal government intervention on behalf of black citizens. Democrats became effectively the only political party in the South, aided by intimidation and suppression of black voters. Democrats also won on state and local levels, leading to the constant abuse of the rights of black citizens.
When you think about racial equality and civil rights, which political party comes to mind? The Republicans or the Democrats? Most people would probably say the Democrats, but this answer is incorrect. Since its founding in 1829, the Democratic Party has fought against every major civil rights initiative and has a long history of discrimination. The Democratic Party defended slavery, started the Civil War, opposed Reconstruction, founded the Ku Klux Klan, imposed segregation, perpetrated lynchings, and fought against the Civil Rights Acts of the 1950s and 1960s. In contrast, the Republican Party was founded in 1854 as an anti-slavery party. Its mission was to stop the spread of slavery into the new Western territories with the aim of abolishing it entirely. This effort, however, was dealt a major blow by the Supreme Court in the 1857 case Dred Scott versus Sandford. The court ruled that slaves aren't citizens, they're property. The 7 justices who voted in favor of slavery, all Democrats. The 2 justices who dissented, both Republicans. The slavery question was, of course, ultimately resolved by a bloody civil war. The commander-in-chief during that war was the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, the man who freed the slaves. 6 days after the Confederate Army surrendered, John Wilkes Booth, a Democrat, assassinated President Lincoln. Lincoln's vice president, a Democrat named Andrew Johnson, assumed the presidency. But Johnson adamantly opposed Lincoln's plan to integrate the newly freed slaves into the South's economic and social order. Johnson and the Democratic Party were unified in their opposition to the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, the 14th Amendment, which gave blacks citizenship, and the 15th Amendment, which gave blacks the vote. All 3 passed only because of universal Republican support. During the era of Reconstruction, federal troops stationed in the South helped secure rights for the newly freed slaves. Hundreds of black men were elected to Southern state legislatures as Republicans, and 22 black Republicans served in the U.S. Congress by 1900. The Democrats did not elect a black man to Congress until 1935. But after Reconstruction ended, when the federal troops went home, Democrats roared back into power in the South. They quickly reestablished white supremacy across the region with measures like black codes, laws that restricted the ability of blacks to own property and run businesses, and they imposed poll taxes and literacy tests used to subvert black citizens' right to vote. And how was all of this enforced? By terror, much of it instigated by the Ku Klux Klan, founded by a Democrat, Nathan Bedford Forrest. As historian Eric Foner, himself a Democrat, notes, in effect, the Klan was a military force serving the interests of the Democratic Party. President Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat, shared many views with the Klan. He resegregated many federal agencies and even screened the first movie ever played at the White House, the racist film, The Birth of a Nation, originally entitled The Klansman. A few decades later, the only serious congressional opposition to the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964 came from Democrats. 80% of Republicans in Congress supported the bill, less than 70% of Democrats did. Democratic senators filibustered the bill for 75 days until Republicans mustered the few extra votes needed to break the logjam. And when all of their efforts to enslave blacks, keep them enslaved, and then keep them from voting had failed, the Democrats came up with a new strategy. If black people are going to vote, they might as well vote for Democrats, as President Lyndon Johnson was purported to have said about the Civil Rights Act. I'll have them voting Democrat for 200 years. So now, the Democratic Party prospers on the votes of the very people it has spent much of its history oppressing. Democrats falsely claim that the Republican Party is the villain, when in reality, it's the failed policies of the Democratic Party that have kept blacks down. Massive government welfare has decimated the black family. Opposition to school choice has kept them trapped in failing schools. Politically correct policing has left black neighborhoods defenseless against violent crime. So when you think about racial equality and civil rights, which political party should come to mind? I'm Carol Swain, professor of political science and law at Vanderbilt University for Prager University.
They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel.
Toward common sense gun reform, criminal justice reform, and all the like.
I'm not a super predator, Hillary.
Okay, fine, we'll talk about it.
You apologize to black people for mass incarceration?
Well, can I talk? And then maybe you can listen to what I say. Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
When somebody won't hush and listen to you, that ain't democracy. They're afraid of the truth. Don't you be afraid of the truth. Don't you be afraid of the truth.
Senator Sanders, earlier this week at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, you called out President Clinton for defending Secretary Clinton's use of the term super predator back in the 90s when she supported the crime bill. Why did you call him out?
Because it was a racist term and everybody knew it was a racist term.
Hot sauce.
Are you getting information right now? Hot sauce. Hot sauce in my bag, Swain?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yes.
Now listen, I just want you to know, people are going to see this and say, okay, she's pandering to black people.
Is it working?
No, seriously, hot sauce. I've been eating a lot.
Michelle Alexander has written a devastating story in The Nation. Now, she's one of the respected intellectuals in the African American community. She's written a lot about the prison system in America and how it subjugates African Americans in this country. And she went about dispelling the notion that the Clinton family has been great to African Americans. Honestly, I didn't know all the facts in here. And I want to encourage you to read the whole article, because the whole article is so strong, has so many facts in it. I can't even quote all of it for you guys. We'll put the link to the article down below if you're on YouTube, Facebook, or on our website. Please read the whole thing. I'm going to do a quick summary here and give you some of the devastating facts. She points out, Bill Clinton presided over the largest increase in federal and state prison inmates of any president in American history. So he wanted to prove how tough on crime he was. Yes, as she points out, he played the saxophone on Arsenio Hall. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, yeah, and he got called the black president because of that. But what did you actually do that affected the black community? Well, if you look at her facts, it appears that almost everything he did actually greatly negatively affected them. Let me give you more. She explains Clinton did not declare the war on crime or the war on drugs. Those wars were declared before Reagan was elected and long before crack hit the streets. But he escalated it beyond what many conservatives had imagined possible. He supported the 100-to-1 sentencing disparity for crack versus powder cocaine, which produced staggering racial injustice in sentencing and boosted funding for drug law enforcement. So that 100-to-1 disparity was unconscionable, filled the jail system with African Americans. So she goes on to explain, when Clinton left office in 2001, the United States had the highest rate of incarceration in the world. Human Rights Watch reported that in 7 states, African Americans constituted 80 to 90% of all drug offenders sent to prison, even though they were no more likely than whites to use or sell illegal drugs. By the way, studies since then have borne that out in every instance. Prison admission for drug offenses reached a level in 2000 for African Americans more than 26 times the level in 1983. All of the presidents since 1980 have contributed to mass incarceration. But as Equal Justice Initiative founder Brian Stevenson recently observed, President Clinton's tenure was the worst. Now think about that. 1983, Ronald Reagan's president. Now, by 2001, or by 2000, as Bill Clinton's leaving office, the number of African Americans incarcerated is 26 times worse than when Reagan was in charge. Now, some of Reagan's policies contributed to that, but as she's telling you here, a lot of Bill Clinton's policies contributed to that. And he bragged about it often. I mean, again, the details in the story are devastating. Bill Clinton, while he was campaigning in 1992, left a campaign trail, went back home, and executed an African American that was on death row. That person was so mentally disabled that in his last meal, he asked to save his dessert. And they had to explain to him, no, you're being executed. There's no saving the dessert. This is your last meal. And then Bill Clinton came back on the campaign trail and said, nobody's going to be tougher on crime than me. Now, how did that affect economics as well? She goes into great detail, but I'll give you one piece of it. When Clinton left office in 2001, the true jobless rate for young, non-college educated black men, including those behind bars, was 42%.
This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org here in Philadelphia at a protest against Hillary Rodham Clinton. As you can see, there's a large number of people from the Haitian community who are pissed off at Hillary Rodham Clinton. If you don't understand geopolitics, this is the video for you. We're going to explain everything that you need to know about what Hillary Clinton and the Clinton family did to Haiti. I'm here joined by Joseph. Joseph, can you explain to us, why is the Haitian community mad at Hillary Clinton?
Well, we have every reason to be mad because the Clintons have destroyed Haiti for the decades. And, you know, they pretend to be our friends when in reality they are our #1 enemies. You know, there are some other people who clearly behave like they don't like us. So it's easy for us to protect ourselves against them because we know they are our enemies. But the Clintons are even more dangerous because they pretend to be our friends when in reality they're destroying Haiti.
Because I heard that the Clinton Foundation and all these other organizations gave over $6 billion to Haiti for the relief effort, especially during the kind of natural disasters that you guys have gone through. Is that true?
No, it's more than true. The money is much more than $6 billion. You see, after the earthquake, countries around the world donate billions of dollars. The amount was much larger than $6 billion. And Bill Clinton was in charge of the money. And not only people around the world, but also American celebrities donate a lot of larger money to rebuild Haiti. And hundreds of homes were destroyed after the earthquake. And if you can believe, the people are still living under tents. That's unacceptable. And not only they held the money, they kept the money, but Haiti have enough resources for them to be very comfortable. Haiti have oil, more oil than Venezuela. Nobody's talking about. Haiti have gold. We have one of the largest gold mine in the Caribbean. So, and they let the world, nobody's saying anything about our goals. Yeah. And who do you think is in charge of our goal right now? The contract. Yeah. Tony Rodham, Hillary Clinton's brother. Wow. He's got a 26 years contract. And then also Haiti used to produce, we used to produce our own rice. We didn't have to buy rice overseas. Bill Clinton destroyed our rice so his brother can sell the rice from Arkansas. Yeah, wow. So they're doing a lot of things. Right now, if there's a millionaire or a billionaire who wants to do business in Haiti, they cannot do anything unless they check with the Clintons.
So you Democrats, you've been in that party a long time. Answer me, what did you get? You got a president. He's worried about his legacy. Well, you want Hillary to get in to protect your legacy because Trump said the minute he get in, he's going to reverse the Affordable Care Act because that's your signature achievement. To show you how hateful the enemy is, he hates that you achieved what you did achieve. So he said, I'm going to tear it up when I get in. So he don't want his legacy destroyed. Mr. President, let the man do if he get in what he wants. Because he's not destroying your legacy. If your legacy is bound up in an Affordable Care Act that only affects a few million people and they're trying to make it really difficult for those of us who signed up, that's not your legacy. But I just want to tell you, Mr. President, you from Chicago and so am I. I go out in the street with the people. I visited the worst neighborhoods. I talked to the gangs. And while I was out there talking to them, they said, you know, Farrakhan, the president ain't never come. Could you get him to come and look after us? There's your legacy, Mr. President. It's in the street with your suffering people, Mr. President. And if you can't go and see about them, then don't worry about your legacy. Because the white people that you've served so well, they'll preserve your legacy. The hell they will. But you didn't earn your legacy with us. We put you there. You fought for the rights of gay people. You fought for the rights of this people and that people. You fight for Israel. Your people are suffering and dying in the streets. That's where your legacy is.
So Obama took care of the homosexual minority subgroup. He took care of the female minority subgroup. He took care of the immigrant minority subgroup. But the group that built the United States of America, that made it what it is, African people, received no direct attention from the President of the United States.
If you talk to any black person, they'll tell you he didn't come speak to us. He talked to Jews, gays, and all kind of other people. He never, Russians, he ain't never come talk to us.
Well, I go to the law school so disgusted by these people. And when I get to the student union building for the Harvard University Law School campus is a building called the Harkness Common. They have your books, the students have their mailboxes, the bookstore, they have like a pub or whatever. I haven't been there in years, but that's where the folks would hang out. And when I got there, I think this is like a Saturday, the building, which I had been in before, which is lit, it was dark. Darkened. I walk in, thinking I'll run into someone, because there are not a lot of black folks, but there's some. There are more at the law school and the divinity school. And I see white folks looking at me like, what the hell are you doing in here, N-word? Should I have as much right to be there as anyone else? I'm not moving. And I'm looking, pacing. I see a sign, something for the Federalist Society. Federalist Society is a group put together by Ward Connerly. He's a black Republican that hates the Civil Rights Movement, Voting Rights Act, hates affirmative action. He's the one who spearheaded this whole move to prevent blacks from getting into the University of California system. He funds the Federalist Society to inculcate remediation, social remediation programs for blacks to get entree into America. I didn't know that, but I remember seeing the sign, and I did know that the early Federalists were slaveholders because as a history person, so I'm like, ooh. As I'm walking, I begin to hear a loudspeaker. I hear someone speaking, and they're saying lots of really ugly, racist, nasty things about black people. I saw, as I was hearing the laughter of what sounded like a white audience, and in my mind I literally saw, for the first time, Obama. I saw a person about 6'1", medium to light in complexion, short afro. I assume they're biracial and they're bisexual. It's the first reading I got. I didn't even see him. I began walking up to the hall because I went to Howard. We would go in and turn meetings out. You know, if you're an activist student.
Especially from D.C.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go in. We just flip. I'll just go and call you up and say, dude, you a punk in the first place. I mean, you used to bend it over, so just sit down. You know, this is the thing that said just go off, because he's saying stuff like, you know, I don't like black folks. Who likes black people? They're this and that. And he's saying all the stuff that white folks are just laughing as he's just clowning black folks. And he started talking about how he hated the BSA, BALSA, Black Law School Student Association, and how they're annoying and nobody likes them, but they trust me because I look like them. This is something Obama's saying. Put me in charge, and I can control them for you. All right. Who's the half-breed in there? I mean, he's got a future ahead of him. And they said, oh, that's Obama. Well, you're from D.C., right? You know, Bama is like a low-life, no-good, backstabbing nigga, right? Obama. And that's his name. Obama says, oh, damn. He sure is Obama. Says, you know what? He's going to go all the way. He'll be president one day. The way he's lying, he lies better than Nixon. He's going to stab us in the back and walk over us to get there. And I just says, oh my God, Obama.
A decade ago, Tavis Smiley wrote the book, The Covenant with Black America. It was an expansive agenda for African Americans written before the age of Barack Obama. Now, Mr. Smiley is out with a new book, The Covenant with Black America, 10 years later. This week, while we were traveling in Iowa, we spoke with Mr. Smiley about what's changed over the last decade. As Martin Luther King Day approaches on Monday, we started by talking about what areas, if any, are better for Black America now than they were before Barack Obama took office.
I'm sad to report that in every single leading economic category, Black America has lost ground over the last decade. In every major economic category, we've lost ground. So this book comes out, as you said, in 2006. So clearly, this book was out before Obama shows up to win in 2008. So the book was never about Barack Obama then. This 10-year update is not about him now. But it is true that over these last 10 years, most of that on his watch, Black America has lost ground in the major economic indicator categories.
That's less than half. But today, Black people are not thriving as much. Gallup's numbers found that the lives of African Americans have waned during Obama's second term. The decline in life ratings add to the collective sentiment that Obama hasn't done enough to improve black Americans' standard of living.
President Obama used two Bibles at his swearing-in at the inauguration. One was Lincoln's, the other one was Martin Luther King Jr.'s. And apparently Cornel West did not love that idea. On Thursday the 17th, he was on a panel led by Tavis Smiley. There were many people on the panel, including Newt Gingrich. And when they got to the topic of King's Bible, Brother Cornel let her go.
When I got the news that my dear brother Barack Obama, President Obama, was going to put his precious hand on Martin Luther King Jr.'s Bible, I got upset. And I got upset because you don't play with Martin Luther King Jr. and you don't play with his people. And by his people, what I mean is people of good conscience, fundamentally committed to peace and truth and justice, and especially the black tradition that produced him. You don't use his prophetic fire as just a moment in a presidential pageantry without understanding the challenge that he presents to all of those in power, no matter what color they are. So the righteous indignation of a Martin Luther King Jr. becomes a moment in political calculation, and that makes my blood boil.
Boil. Okay, so you think, well, his blood has boiled. No, no, no. It's about to boil.
All of those in power who refuse to follow decent policies. So I say to myself, Brother Martin Luther King Jr., what would you say about the new Jim Crow? What would you say about the prison industrial complex? What would you say about the invisibility of so many of our prisoners? So many of our incarcerated, especially when 62% of them are there for soft drugs, but not one executive of a Wall Street bank gone to jail. Not one. Martin doesn't like that. Not one wiretapper. What would you say about the drones being dropped on our precious brothers and sisters in Pakistan and Somalia and Yemen? Those are war crimes, just like war crimes in Vietnam. Martin Luther King Jr., what would you say? My voice hollers out, then don't tame it with your hand on his Bible. Allow his prophetic voice to be heard.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Wrapping up a workout, but I just wanted to take a quick second to make this video. I'm realizing I never really did an official walk away video. So I just wanted to take a minute and kind of talk a little bit about why I'm probably never ever going to vote Democrat again. I've talked about it online on Twitter. Most of my engagement happens on Twitter. I'm more of a writer. Just got my YouTube channel up. Just started using Instagram as well. But usually if you see me, you caught me on Twitter, you caught me on Snapchat. So here's kind of where I'm at with this. And the way I see it, the civil rights movement is turned into the civil rights industry. You have political leaders now who all they want to do is get reelected by capitalizing on white guilt and monetizing white guilt. So for every problem we have in the black community, all they do is blame white people. And they blame the legacy of Jim Crow and slavery for no matter what it is. And it's not really productive, man, because it never really addresses the core issues that are causing these problems, which means we never actually get to the point where we can determine solutions. If you look at certain metrics, man, even under Democrat leadership and electing all these people to office who say they have our best interests at heart, in some areas things have stayed the same, in some areas things have gotten considerably worse. When we look at income, the disparity in income between blacks and whites since the 50s and 60s has actually grown. It's gotten worse. How is that? If it's because of the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow, why is it the farther away we get from slavery and Jim Crow, that disparity increases rather than contracts, right? If we look at, excuse me, if we look at the unemployment rate, the black unemployment rate has pretty much been double that of whites since that time. There's been no improvement almost in that area, but we're supposed to still sit here and just blame slavery, just blame the legacy of Jim Crow? It doesn't make any sense because their policies don't make any sense, yet they keep asking to be reelected and we keep electing them over and over and over again and nothing changes. Nothing gets better. Things get worse. It doesn't make any sense. So we could look at education, right? We know through research that black students perform better when parents have school choice. when they're allowed to send their kids wherever they want to go, when they can pull their kid out of a failing school and send them to a better school, the kids perform better. They have a better chance of getting into college. They have a better chance of getting a good job and making money and breaking the chain of poverty, breaking that cycle of poverty. Yet Democrats almost unanimously oppose school choice. They oppose all of the things that are going to make the black community better. They oppose all of the things that are going to move our community forward. And then they sell us this lie and tell us it's because of white people and because of white privilege and because of slavery. Man, it's bull. It's bull. And they know it is. Because if they ever, think about this, if there was no racism, if we actually solved the problem of racism, there'd be a whole lot of politicians. There'd be a whole lot of sociology professors and women's studies professors, well, not women's studies, but there'd be a whole lot of people who make money on people being disenfranchised that would be out of work. Does that make sense? There would be the industry is so profitable that ending racism would actually mean people don't have a job. What are they going to do all day if they can't go out and advocate? So they keep these problems going to keep money in their own pockets, man, so they can get reelected, so they can keep money going into their foundations. So it's very clear to anybody who's looking objectively that there needs to be a shift, and black people are starting to wake up. And we're starting to realize that the people who are selling us these wolf tickets don't really have our best interests at heart. So I came to this realization during the Obama administration. I voted for him, man. I voted pretty much straight Democrat all the way down the ticket. And as soon as he got in office, this dude started going sideways. And I started looking at the policies that are coming out and what's really happening. And I was like, this isn't what I voted for. This isn't what he campaigned on. So I started waking up to the game then. And I started doing my research and learning about history and how things really worked. I learned that the KKK was actually started by Democrats. The first Grand Wizard of the KKK was certified at a DNC convention in, what was it, 1868? Republicans were the party that opposed slavery. They formed the Democrats to basically counter the Republicans to keep slavery in place. People say this, it's no longer that way, but again, all we got to do is look at today's policies and say right now, what's happening right now that Democrats are doing that actually put black people ahead? Huh? Let's look at crime rates in cities that Democrats control. Things better? I'll wait. Let's look at jobs. Let's look at the economies in cities and states that Democrats control. Democrats exclusively control California for the most part. People are leaving California in droves, going to places like Arizona and Texas. Look at the black communities there. How are they doing? Look at the homeless rate. Look at the taxes. Their policies do not work. Yet they keep asking us to vote for them over and over and over again, and enough is enough. It's time to stop. It's time to break the cycle. So, me, I made a decision, man. I made a decision, and that decision is I can no longer support anybody in the Democrat Party because they're not the party for black people. They're not even the party for America. They're now such a far left socialist party that has such an extreme ideology. I don't even know who in the country they're working for anymore, because it ain't us. In every city they run, things get worse, not better. Taxes get higher and opportunities diminish. People flee areas that they control. Their policies are failed. So I'm off that boat, man. I'm off that train. I'm off that Democrat plantation. I can't do it anymore. I'm a conservative. I'm pretty independent. I don't even identify as Republican, but I cannot identify as Democrat, and I cannot support Democrats probably ever again. We have been lied to as a people. We've been lied to as a country. Not only am I waking up, but a lot of other people are waking up as well. There's going to be another movement that's coming pretty soon. But this is my walk away video for right now. But just letting you know, for me personally, based on what I just told you and so many other things, I could articulate this more under different circumstances, but I just wanted to make this video real quick. But that's my walk away story. That's part of my walk away story. But all you got to do is look at the numbers, man. Look at the metrics, look in your communities, and look and ask yourself, are you better off under Democrat policies or other policies? Are things better or worse? So I chose to walk away. Thousands, maybe millions, but thousands of other people have chosen to walk away as well. And I support anybody who wants to be a part of this movement and stand up for truth, who wants to stand up for doing the right thing, stand up for justice. And I wish everybody the best, and I wish the best for the United States of America.